getting into the areas hardest hit as far as the north and south shores are concerned. We're WHDH, full news in just about 3 minutes at 1:30. It's 27 minutes after 1 at WHDH. Here's Vin Maloney.
We have Al Newpus of the Boston Police Information Center on the phone with some information I'm sure will help a lot of people who may need help in an emergency. You there, Al?
Yes, I'm here, man.
I know the commissioner gave out the emergency number on Monday for life or death calls, which is 911. But I understand down there at police headquarters you're getting a lot of calls for other things. Are you down there?
Yes, we are being swamped on 9/11, especially for transportation, medical transportation. And we would request anyone requiring emergency medical transportation, which is being provided by the 114th Medical Battalion of the Army National Guard, to call 782-2323. I'll repeat that number. This is for medical transportation and emergency to a hospital. The number is 782-2323.
Yeah. Go ahead, Al.
Disregard the other numbers that are given out. This is just strictly then on the medical transportation for emergency cases. Someone has to go to a hospital, maternities, or insulin shots, or what have you. We have the National Guard that will provide the service, but we have to have them channel it on the right number, which is 782-2323.
Okay, Al, now that leaves 9/11, and I use the term that was for, life or death circumstances. Just what does the commissioner want people to use 9/11 for?
On 9/11, if you have a serious crime, or a serious accident, or somebody that is desperately in need of help, we still want them to call 9/11. But if they would, now we get an awful lot of calls, people making inquiries on arrest, the transportation, and whatnot. Calls that are not of an emergency nature. If they have an emergency, they need help, they are still asked to call 911, but just to call the emergency number that we have given out for medical transportation and try to use reasoning and when to call 911.
Okay, Al, we thank you very much for that information. I'm sure it'll be helpful to people who might need medical assistance or that kind of thing in the city of Boston, and that will leave 9/11 open for the actual police work.
All right, thank you, then.
Vin Maloney, HDH News. Thank you, sir. That number again, medical transportation only, 782-2323, 782-2323.
Project Place Emergency Ambulance. That's 247-4000. That's in the South End. 247-4000, Project Place Emergency Ambulance.
Thank you. Bob Pilati is due momentarily with complete news from WHDH. It is 1:30. We're here under battery power once again. Bob will have the latest from Boston Edison, but unless that has changed, the latest is that there is still no estimate as to when power will be restored to about 40,000 people in the Boston area, Prudential Center, Copley Square, Government Center, and Kenmore Square being the major areas that have been affected, as well as some areas in the Back Bay. They don't know the exact problem yet, and as soon as they find out what that is, hopefully they can give us a guess as to when it's going to be back on. We suspect from our last conversation with them that it may be a while, and we're ready in that event. We're all here, Jess and Al Brady and Sean and Dave Supple and the full, of course, news department. Everybody is here at HDH. Monday, when this thing hit, everybody made it in. Nobody made it home.
Most of us were already here.
That's true, yeah. But,
I was just talking to all the guys that are married. Jesus, I was telling them we're going to have some nice reunions when everybody gets home.
That's true. Either that or some big trouble.
He's married to a telephone, so what would he know?
Jerry was our Lily Tomlin yesterday. He was
really handled.
He was here with the phone every time we looked up. Jerry was in here with somebody else on the air on the phone live.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to be this afternoon too. As long as the power remains out and as long as the emergency situation exists in Boston. And at about 1:33 at WHDH in Boston, Bob Pilati from the HDH Information Center is here. Bob, it is all yours.
Okay, 80% of the Edison customers here in the city of Boston, or about 40,000 people, maybe a bit more, give or take a few thousand, are in the dark. And we know what caused it now, a fire at Edison South Boston substation blowing out at least 4 transformers. Edison officials don't expect it to take as long to get the power back as the last outage, but it's going to take a while, probably several hours. In the meantime, we're still in a state of emergency here in the Bay State, meaning don't go out of your homes. Roads are simply impassable. And even if you have a car that's buried in the snow on one of the major highways, as all the fellows here have been telling you, only official storm workers will be allowed access to them. And those cars will be towed to a storage garage. You'll be able to pick them up later. For those of you with cars, trucks, and 128, the number to call starting tomorrow morning is 727-4800. 727-4800, the number to call starting tomorrow morning, not today. If you have a car in 128 that's buried. And you'll be able to find out where it's been towed, and you'll be able to pick it up at a later date. More than 2,500 cars in all have been towed off of 128, or will be towed soon. And there will be no charge for that tow, incidentally. Obviously. The Army has made it here, finally. A couple of hundred troops landing at Logan a short while back, and more are on the way. They'll be dispatched to the areas where they're needed most. And one of those areas, of course, is the coastal areas, which have been devastated. Thousands have been evacuated. They're in shelters, National Guard armories being taken care of. And more people are still being taken to higher ground in Hull, Nahant, Scituate, in Revere, and in Winthrop. At least 10 deaths, maybe more, have been caused in this storm already, including 2 crew members from a Coast Guard vessel, the one that had gone out to help that Greek tanker, which had gone aground. And the search is still on for 3 more missing crew members of the Can-Do, that pilot boat. And the crew of the Greek tanker is apparently okay. 40 people, at least 40 people in all, across the New England states have been killed in this storm. And that is the latest we have. And as Tommy and Al and the fellows have been telling you here, the T is running. And I heard them run down the sections where the T is, but not for passengers, really, only to keep the tracks clear and warm, and so the brakes don't freeze. But they're running on a limited basis when needed. Joe Sobel now with the exclusive HDH AccuWeather forecast.
Number 1 in Rockport, a favorite scene for artists. If you've ever seen a little red building on some tall piers, and a boat bobbing there on a lobster, I think it's a lobster boat. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. And it's a beautiful seaside scene. That's called motif number 1. It was completely wrecked. The pier at Old Orchard Beach is firewood right now. It's all strewn across the beach. And the Peter Stuyvesant, the Hudson River excursion boat next to Pier 4, sank this morning.
And power.
Okay, this is what they call a heavy engineer company. In this company, there are about 30 pieces of heavy equipment, bulldozers, front-end loaders, and it will be accompanied by dump trucks and about 200 regular Army troops.
And they were all, of course, from Fort Bragg.
That's right, sir.
Okay, we'll be checking with you throughout the afternoon. You are posted at your headquarters, I'm sure.
That's right, sir.
And easily accessible. We just picked up the phone and called you.
Okay.
So we'll be talking to you a bit later. Thanks much.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you, Jerry. We would assume then, since a lot of the Army troops are being sent to the Masspike and 128 areas, that local civil defense and state officials are going to be handling the North and South Shores. They've done an incredible job so far in evacuations, and it's going to be, as we discussed earlier, some time before the North and South Shores get back to the beautiful Boston coastline that we know. Unfortunately, it's been
devastating. I'm going to go back to the newsroom right now because I spent some time in the Copley Plaza Hotel this morning. A lot of people were checking out. We talked with Alan Tremaine, the manager, earlier this morning. I'm sure it's true all the other hotels in town. People are checking out, and as someone said earlier here, I think it was Al who said everybody's saying, have a nice trip. But the trip is to nowhere until we find out when the planes will be flying out of Logan. I'm going to go check that out, or get Vin on it, or Jerry, or somebody to see where they can talk to Ron.
If you give up a hotel room now, all those people that have been sleeping in the lobby may grab it. You may end up in the lobby.
Well, it's really incredible. It was almost like all of the people that I ran into in the hotel were unaware of everything that was going on. Maybe they were there without transistor radios. I guess most people who go to hotels don't have transistor radios. They're not all radio people like we are. And it was almost like they were unaware of exactly what the situation was. And the minute they saw a snowplow go down the street on Huntington Avenue, bam, out the door, we're going. It's goodbye, go home, get to the airport, get wherever it is. And the desk clerk at the hotel was telling them, you don't really want to do this. You don't really want to give up your key, because you're going to go out and an hour later you're going to be back and your room's not going to be here anymore.
And in many cases, they didn't believe it.
That's right.
And a lot of those guys were wearing big Texas hats, so
Yes,
they
they
got a
were.
long way to go
Yes,
by
they were.
airplane and a further way on foot.
20
It was-
minutes to 2 at WHDH. Jess, Al Brady, Tom Kennedy, Jim Sands is with us. Everybody in the newsroom. Complete and continuing coverage of the biggest snowstorm on record ever.
When is
for
the last
New
time
England.
you went to a hotel and you went in to have breakfast and the crew in the restaurant met you at the door and told you what you were going to have? We were greeted this morning by a very pleasant lady who said, now listen, we're the night crew. We don't know how to do breakfast. We don't know how to cook anything. We've arranged to make eggs. We have no juice. We don't know how to make toast. You can have cereal if you want it, and you can have your eggs any way you want them, and that's all you can have.
This is it, like it or not.
And if you want to eat here, that's the way you're going to do it.
In the hotel I was at, last night's menu was from a Xerox machine, and it started, for your convenience, we have prepared the following storm menu, and it had 3 items, and that was it.
That was the end of that. That's the way the situation is in Boston, and we are relaying it to you on WHDH radio. We are once again without power. Around 40,000 people in the city of Boston have no power at this moment, and the operation is dig out. People all over the Boston area are digging out from under. The state of emergency is still in existence. No vehicular traffic, no work, no schools, no businesses, no nothing is going on. And that's the way it's going to be at least until midnight tonight, and perhaps even longer than that. But so we can save ourselves some speculation, we'll wait to hear from the governor on whether or not the state of emergency will be extended. It is 1:42 on WHDH in Boston. I'm here with Jess Kane, Tom Kennedy, Jim Sands, Jack Lazar.
Jack Lazar just came in. Good morning,
John
Jack.
Casey.
Good morning.
It's the most people I've ever seen in this radio station, even under normal circumstances.
The governor is meeting with a host of agencies and advisors and will make a decision probably within the next 15 minutes whether or not to extend the driving ban. Spokesman Joe Berlin tells us the announcement will come sometime around 2 o'clock.
The governor is in MDC headquarters right now at the storm headquarters. He's talking to some of the people who have been involved from the MDC for the past 72 hours on this. They're going to be making a decision fairly shortly on whether to extend that emergency.
Spokesman Berlin also says Army troops can be expected to land soon.
Yeah, as we understand, the runway has been cleared. They're expecting the plane to land somewhere around 2 o'clock.
Reddish of the state police says once those troops land, they will be transferred to state police headquarters in Framingham by helicopter. Jim?
All right, now, David, the governor was to have a press conference at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Is this announcement in any way going to be affected by the power outage in Boston?
From what I can understand, what he's going to do is they're going to make a decision. Whether they have the press conference or not seems to be immaterial. They'll make a decision sometime around 2 o'clock.
Okay, you'll get back on the line with your people then?
Yes, sir.
And if that announcement is forthcoming in this newscast, we'll get it right to you. Boston is in the midst of one big power outage right now.
It would be easy to say which areas of Boston are not affected. The retail district up around Jordan Marsh, I understand, still has power. But you can assume that every other part of Boston, from the South Boston switching yard right through to the Back Bay up to Kenmore Square, all these folks who were out of power last night are again without power, the result of this fire.
Edison's Bill Conley tells GTR News 40,000 customers are affected. Conley says ice has to be removed from a main station by hand. That is what caused the fire in the station and blacked out Boston. It'll be a couple of hours before power is back. Edison spokesman Fred Roth tells GTR News there were reports of power outages in Natick Sherwood Plaza. Roth says the extent of the outage or what caused it was not known about an hour ago. Now they know that 2 stores were out, but they were back almost immediately. GTR newswoman Roseanne Pawelek is here with a story about schools. No schools in some schools until next Monday.
5 of them arrested. The people trying to take advantage of the storm, making off with TVs, furniture, radios, you name it, from local stores and businesses. The law is apparently going to come down hard on them. The Suffolk County DA's office has set up a special unit to prosecute them, and they are vowing to give them the sternest action possible and the swiftest. It could get up to 20 years. More than 125 looters arrested during the storm, over half of them in the Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan section. Some arrested in Charlestown, the South End as well. As we've been telling you, the T is running on a limited...
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Jim McAllister,
Hi,
WGTR.
Jim. How you doing?
What is the situation on the road driving ban at this hour?
The governor just announced that for all the... unfortunately, our power has gone out here, so we weren't able to do the the broadcast for the radios and TV, although we are going to try to get on the radios as quickly as we can. But the governor has announced that the emergency will continue through tomorrow, including the driving ban. He had just come back from an aerial view of the entire area, and it is a mess. It is really, really bad. The coastal areas and 128 are in awful shape, and you know, all of the calls that are starting to come in now with all kinds of emergency needs for food and fuel, and the state institutions and the hospitals and all of the places that we have to get things to people. We just have to keep the roads clear of civilian traffic so that we can have another day to get in there and do what we need to do.
Now, when you say the emergency will continue in effect, does this mean all but essential businesses and schools will remain closed as well?
Schools closed, banks closed, businesses closed. The only thing allowed open will be absolutely essential services.
Now, on the driving ban, who is and who is not allowed on the road under this ban?
Well,
there seems to be confusion as to whether people going perhaps to work in a grocery store where they would be dispensing groceries to people who need them.
If they're going to work in a grocery store and they can walk to work to get to the grocery store, they can go. But I mean, the problem is you can't go anywhere. You know, if you're in your own car, you're not going to go very far, and it's kind of a futile attempt to try to go anywhere. You know, sometimes, you know, it might be okay in someone's own little area, but God, they go a mile from their home or 2 miles from their home, and they're going to be, you know, waist deep in the stuff. You know, almost all of the neighborhoods in Boston and the surrounding communities are all down. I mean, there's no street travel. It's just completely wiped out. And there'll be days before they get them out.
Okay, so what people are allowed on the roads?
Only essential personnel.
Which includes nurses, doctors, people of that sort?
Yeah, and doctors, you know, anybody who works for the electric company, the gas company, fire people, fire protection, police protection, you know, very essential services. Okay,
now we had a report this morning that news people, reporters and photographers, are allowed on the road under this. Is that true?
That is true. That our feeling was that it was important for the news media people to be able to transmit the news so that we can inform people of what's going on, and we have exempted those personnel.
Okay, quickly to recap, the driving ban has been extended how long?
Through tomorrow.
Through tomorrow?
We'll say more tomorrow about where we go from there.
All right, through tomorrow at what time? You mean midnight tomorrow night?
Well, just let's say until we tell people differently.
Okay, and these will be day-to-day decisions,
yes.
In other words?
Yes.
All right, and the MDC?
Still there, Sergeant?
I sure am.
Boy, I don't know how you're doing it.
Oh, I'm all right.
But you've been kind of masterminding this whole thing. Have you had any sleep today?
No, I'm afraid not. I got 2 hours in the chair last night between 3 and 5 in the morning, but that's it.
Oh, that's the famous Southborough Police Chief's overstuffed chair.
Right.
We have an overstuffed cot on the 3rd floor here at WGTR.
Sure you do.
It's been staying warm.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you what the conditions are right now. First of all, along Route 9, starting in Fayetteville back to the Westboro line, how is the removal with the DPW and the plows and getting those cars off the big parking lot called Route 9?
Yeah, things have improved greatly. I understand now that we could get an emergency vehicle through all of Route 9 West. And
Great.
That's the first time we've opened that up.
Beautiful.
And that's good news, and we're still working very diligently to get enough vehicles off the eastbound lane to open that up. And that's quite a project considering the best count we have so far, over 700 stranded vehicles out there, and many of them tractor-trailer units. That has improved. The shelters, we're working very hard to get people out of the shelters and home through National Guard units and civil defense and other units like that. So we have made progress there, too. And now we're just beginning to try to put together massive lists of towed vehicles, and that's the next problem. We're having a problem, of course, with people driving that really shouldn't be, and I've just had to instruct all Southborough policemen to take whatever enforcement actions are necessary to stop it. But the best way to stop it is, you know, the citizen cooperation.
Well, in Natick, the police are pulling people over, and I know the state police have actually, I understand, impounded a couple of cars.
Yeah, well, you know, it's too bad they have to do that. You know, you don't want to do it, but Well, if people won't listen, I guess that's what we have to do.
Yeah, well, people look at the roads and they see the snow is melting and they say, oh, it's a beautiful day and why can't I go? But all the secondary roads are really a mess, and the emergency vehicles, and the roads are narrow. It's the other big problem.
That's right. Well, what'll happen, they'll get to a street somewhere where they can't get through, and then we'll end up what we started with before, where they get blocked, and the plow gets blocked, somebody else gets blocked, wreckers can't get in, and that's how it begins.
And they all get stuck again, right?
Yeah, we sure do.
Plus, tonight it's going to go down below freezing, and all this melted snow is going to turn to solid ice.
That's right.
It's a mess. What's going on now with the people who are stranded in some of the places? Like I know at Data General, there are a lot of people up there that have been there since Monday night, too.
Yeah, there still are quite a few, and we're working very hard now to try to get some of those people out of there and get them home somehow, perhaps through the National Guard or civil defense units.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've been safer there. They've been well housed and well fed, and that's really the major thing we're doing now, aside from trying to get Route 9 borrowed out, is to try to get some of these people home. It's been quite a while. Some have been away from home.
Yeah. Are there any problems there with young children or something, or?
Not too bad with young children, and we've had tremendous success with meeting medical emergencies and making sure enough insulin was available to diabetics, and that's pretty good. I think the only thing we're being a little cautious of now is we're beginning to run out of food.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll do well. We're very well organized, considering.
Well, we're trying to get through to the Wonder Bakery here in Natick. I understand they've got enough. They can't get the big bread trucks out to make their usual distribution. And the Wonder Bakery here in Natick on Speen Street distributes to the whole Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
So they have all this bread that's sitting there, and they're trying to get it out to the markets and get it also through the National Guard.
Oh, I see.
We've been running missions up there to get it in. They're taking it into Boston. They're also running out of milk out here, so they're trying to get that taken care of.
Beautiful.
So we're getting kind of organized.
Oh, yeah, we sure are. That's the advantage of having that cooperation.
Well, it's on we go through the storm. We'll check back later on. Are you going to get any sleep, Sergeant?
Oh, those 2 hours will hold me for a while.
Okay.
Okay.
I came on at 6 this morning relieving John Kasayan, who'd been on the air all night. And he was supposed to relieve me at 1, but I feel great, so as long as I feel great, let him sleep, then he can take over and go on tonight.
We appreciate all your help getting the warnings over the air, too. It's been very effective. Stopping a lot of calls coming into the police station. We had periods when dispatchers were answering 4 and 5 calls every 11 seconds. They were coming in that rapid,
Gee, while you're mentioning that, and before I forget it, I'd like to make mention something in relation to that. We've gotten a lot of calls, of course, here at WGTR throughout the storm, but we're starting to get calls now from people who don't really understand that just because their street isn't plowed, they are not being discriminated against. That not even half the secondary streets are even touched. So if you feel that your street has some special merit, please don't call the police, don't call the highway departments. They're trying to do the best they can. It's the worst storm in history in terms of the amount of snowfall in 24 hours in the history of New England. We've never had a storm like this. So naturally, it's going to take, it may be this weekend before they get to your street.
I don't find that hard to believe.
Yes. And one of the nicest things that people can do, if you really are concerned about older people on your street, go over and help them. Go out and dig their steps so they can get out in case of a fire. Just help them out. Get the kids working. It's a wonderful thing to see neighbors helping each other in this kind of a thing. And I'm sure you agree with that, Sergeant Connors?
I sure do.
Okay.
Thanks for your help.
Thank you, and good luck to everybody in Southborough working so hard to keep those people going.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Governor Dukakis.
Governor Bob Palante. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Not too bad.
Okay.
Why don't you give us an update on the situation and what you have to tell the people, first of all.
All right. Lieutenant Governor O'Neill and I just a few hours ago completed a helicopter tour of the South Shore, the North Shore, and the 128 area. It can only be described as awesome. 128 is jammed with cars, 3 abreast over a 7-mile stretch from Needham to Canton, and it will take us literally days to unplug that road. Most other roads are not in very good shape at all. Our coastal communities have been devastated both to the south and the north, and evacuation efforts are continuing and will be assisted by the arrival this afternoon of federal troops and equipment. It is very clear, however, that there is simply no way that we can restore normal services and return to normal behavior and customary activity at least through tomorrow. So the state of emergency will continue tomorrow through midnight at the very least, and then tomorrow we'll have to make a judgment as to what happens on Friday. But clearly The state of emergency must continue. Not only that, but we're getting now increasing requests for emergency service for food, for fuel, and for health services and medical care, which means that we have to keep roads open for fuel trucks and for food deliveries and that kind of thing, and that's another reason why people must continue to stay in their homes and not use their private passenger vehicles.
Governor Dukakis, I know you've been in contact closely with all the rescue operations, but especially with the MDC, and the situation on the coast is devastating, we're told.
Yes, it is. It's hard to describe the scene that one sees as one flies over these areas. Down, for example, in Nantasket and Scituate, houses are have literally been washed away. Some are tipping into the water. Others have been smashed to smithereens, and one sees nothing but scrap lumber on the ground. Shore roads are out. Seawalls have been broken. To the north in Revere, there are houses and cars in feet of frozen water, frozen salt water, whole neighborhoods that are absolutely frozen in with 5, 6, 7 feet of water. And we're still working hard to evacuate some of the remaining people that are in some of those neighborhoods up in Revere. So the situation continues to be very critical in those communities.
We'll be in close touch with you, Governor. One thing, can we be assured of some cash coming into us following this up? What I'm saying is in the next few days or so, does Jimmy Carter have to sign another bill or something? Can we be assured of some federal assistance in the form of dollars?
The only assurance we have at this point, thanks to the President's emergency declaration, is that federal troops and federal equipment will be made available to us, and that already is beginning. Within the next few days, as we dig out, we will begin the preparation of a state application for designation as a federal disaster area, and that will require documentation. It will require an assessment of damage and of value and all of those things. We'll prepare that just as quickly as possible and send it to the White House with the hope that the President will approve it. But that will take a few days anyway, and only if that application is approved will substantial loans and grants be available.
Governor Dukakis, and we just spoke to him just a few moments ago. So the state of emergency, as we've been telling you now, is going to be in effect through midnight Thursday. Please stay home. You'll get your vehicles if they're stranded on the highways. 2,500 of them or so are stranded all across all across 128. You'll get them. They're being towed and free of charge, of course. And there'll be a number available. You can call starting tomorrow morning, and your cars will be available at that time.
That was it. 6 o'clock, I got on Route 9. At 8 o'clock, I had moved 40 feet.
Yeah, this is what I heard. Mark Davis was out on the turnpike, and he said it took about 3 hours to go from Boston to exit 13.
So what we did, we moved. There were a couple of semi-trucks that had single axles instead of dual axles, and they were able to move out of the way. But we got around. I have snow tires on my car, but it was again incredible the number of people who didn't even have snow tires on their car.
Sure.
We moved around. I went up on the center span and got to there's a break on Route 9 across from Crandall Hicks, and I was obviously in the eastbound lane. I get into the westbound lane, and I started driving eastbound, and I just was, hoping that I get up to there was a Deerfoot Road meets Route 9 there, and I went down Deerfoot Road, which hadn't been plowed, kept going down there for about, I don't know, half a mile or so, and there was a car right sideways across the road, so I had to stop. Got out, walked down to a farmhouse about 1.5 miles down the road, got my guys to come over, and we pulled the car out of the way, and pulled my car, and bingo, I was home about 10 o'clock. But if I hadn't, my car would still be out there. Now, I just came from Southborough, and Route 9 looks exactly the same as it did 2 days ago. There are trucks, there are cars, there are people walking up 85 back and forth from that school where they have stayed the night, and they're having a good time. There's more practical common sense, I think, being exercised there. They're just not trying to do anything. Ted's and their large mammoth wreckers are out there trying to pull some of those trucks off the interchanges, which they are able to do to some extent. But I would expect that the governor has got his finger on the pulse, and Saturday I would think would be optimistic as far as getting the thing opened up.
Okay, Doug, you've been out plowing since when?
Well, we were out yesterday. We worked yesterday until, well, actually, I came home. I went to bed about 6:15 this morning and get up again around 10:45. And so we'll be probably banging around. We're trying to get into some of the other areas in the center now.
In other words, what towns are you working in?
Well, we've been back and forth from Framingham to Milford. I've seen about every town between here and Milford, and I think as I say, that the best job I have seen is in the Milford area, and the worst job I have seen, quite frankly, is in Framingham.
Let me ask you a couple of questions people have been asking me all the time. Now, you're out there, and basically we don't get a chance to talk to a snow plower.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm trying to make sure that everybody's working. Although I'm going to go jump on a tractor myself right now and
that's okay.
try and get some things cleaned
You're
up.
out there. In other words,
yeah.
You're in the field, should we say.
Yeah.
People are saying that basically they're not getting side streets plowed, and the DPW says that won't be possibly maybe till tonight. That's maybe even later that a lot of secondary roads and side roads will not be plowed. That's possible, isn't it?
Yeah. See, the thing is that now we were last night in Northborough, and there were some streets down there that hadn't even been cleaned out. One of the things that interested me was, again, the number of people who obviously tried to get out or to get home, and they just left their cars. Sure. And that's what the problem is on some of even like the state highways, 16, 135, 85, Route 9, any of the major or secondary roads, and those cars just can't be moved. If there was a good-hearted soul who had the equipment, he could move those cars if the people were with the cars. But obviously they're not, so they have to, they stay there. And I would say that, if anybody wanted to be practically practically realistic, I would say that you're looking at no more school this week, and you're looking at probably no more work maybe until Friday. One thing that I also ought to try to, it's difficult sometimes for people to find places to put the snow, but it's very, very inconvenient and almost selfish, I would say, for people to be taking snow out of their driveways and pushing it into the middle of the road, or pushing it, piling it up on bankings on the other side of the road. It just almost blocks the road. And the road is going to be, when it gets cold, very lumpy.
Yeah, that's
and
for
it's
sure.
going to be dangerous. So, all these things we can talk about and talk about and talk about, but I just thought that from the point of view of practicality, maybe we could lend a little bit of a hand, and hopefully people will stay in. Another thing that I've seen a lot of that is very unfortunate is a lot of young kids on ski mobiles out in the road.
Well,
and
most towns are saying that unless you're authorized by the police, they don't want them on the roads.
Does make a difference. The police don't have time to chase anybody. They say they don't want them on the road.
Right,
but
that's what they're saying.
And once they get that done, they're going to start towing cars to an area of 128 which has been plowed, and then beginning tomorrow sometime, probably later on in the morning tomorrow, you can call this number to get information on how you may retrieve your automobile.
Tomorrow what to do about Friday, they'll decide Friday what to do about the weekend. And on we go, I guess.
Oh, okay. And Harlan Levy just came in.
Well, I just wanted to say Happy Ash Wednesday. Thank you very much, Harlan.
Of New England. First of all, for tonight, clear skies, low temperatures in the upper teens, but colder in the suburbs. There'll be a light northwest wind at about 5 or 10 miles per hour. For tomorrow, a sunny, beautiful day, but cool. The high temperature only about 32 degrees. A light northwesterly wind again at about 5 or 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow night, clear and continued cold. Low temperatures in the upper teens with a light variable wind. And for Friday, it'll be partly sunny. The high temperatures on Friday getting up into the mid-30s with a light variable wind continuing. There is a fairly large storm in the Gulf of Mexico, but it does appear at this time that it's going to slide across North Florida, bringing a fairly decent snowstorm to portions of Georgia and the Carolinas, but it's going to stay far enough to our south and well enough offshore that we're just going to see high, thin clouds in the Boston and New England area on Friday. So the big storm is going to stay out in the ocean, not affecting us, and it looks like we're going to continue our lucky weather pattern right on through the weekend.
From South Florida.
I think someone misunderstood me earlier about the nature of this state of emergency in Massachusetts. And this is not a josh, friends. I mean, this is a serious matter. Non-essential people are not to go out. That's all. You just are not to go out. That is the nature of the state of emergency here. They are trying to plow streets. They are trying to find abandoned automobiles. And the idea is for you to remain in your home, take it easy, relax, and don't go out driving. A woman very irritated, and she had a right to be agitated when you consider the possible consequences. There apparently have been some fools who have gone out just joyriding, just to take a look at the devastation, motoring around to see what's going on. This is neither the time nor the place for that kind of irresponsibility. Hello, you're on Double Day, too. The troops have arrived at Logan International Airport. The governor, Michael Dukakis, was there to greet them, along with WBZ's Darrell Gould.
Darrell Gould hitched a ride in an Army Jeep to get over there to cover it for us. He since had to go back to the MDC headquarters where the governor has set up his headquarters, and we'll be getting a report from Darrell very shortly. But immediately the troops were dispatched to Revere, to Route 128, and to Scituate in an effort to dig them out and help them. Meanwhile, Boston Edison doing pretty well all of a sudden in recovering power tonight. Carol Tyler has more for us.
By 6:17 p.m., we had restored power to those customers in downtown Boston who were affected by the problems we had in the switchyard at K Street Station. We still are experiencing isolated small outages throughout the system, and most of the problems in dealing with these outages is access, where the travel is still bad and we're having to plow our way to some of the problems. In addition to that, we are experiencing some problems with our steam heat customers, but we are working on that and we'll be working on it throughout the night.
There it is, the good word from Boston Edison that most of the power is back now in the city of Boston. Now, the two hardest hit areas in the state have to be Scituate and Revere. We have reports tonight from both Harry Savis and from Don Batting.
As the day has wore on, it has become more apparent just how massive the destruction and damage is in Scituate. The townspeople, with the help of the National Guard, have been making a valiant effort to bounce back from this devastating storm, but it's going to be many weeks before Scituate returns to anything that might be considered normal. Town Selectman Carl Pipes says things are looking just a little bit better than they were earlier in the day.
The only thing I can say is, with the good weather that we've got now, things are getting a little less hectic around here. We're able to move at a more uniform pace. What we're trying to do is keep the areas that are flooded and have had such devastation blocked off, because we're getting a lot of people want to come around sightseeing, and we've got to keep these people out of those areas because there are still gas leaks, water leaks. I doubt if there are any, live wires at this stage. We still have, yes, I was just told we still have some live wires down that have not been disconnected.
Selectman Pipes says there are still some people stranded in the Hummerock section of Scituate, and he says 3 or 4 people remain unaccounted for.
Well, again, what we're hoping is that, these are people who may be holed up somewhere in these houses and just haven't been able to come out and get to the mainland yet.
So, as far as you know, 3 or 4 unaccounted for, but they may be safe somewhere.
Right.
As I said earlier, the people of Scituate are just beginning to realize how serious and extensive the damage and destruction is in their town. One resident, Paul Hickman, gives us this eyewitness account of the devastation in just one section of Scituate.
I was just down Townway section of Scituate between 2nd Cliff and 3rd Cliff, and there's at least 15 to 20 houses completely flattened. Townway no longer exists. It's under about 10 feet of huge boulders, sand. There was maybe 2 or 3 houses left standing, and they were mostly gutted. And there's a couple of fishing trawlers up in the parking lot, some lobster boats. There's boats on the marshland washed right out of a boatyard, still on their cradles. And there's a section of road going over from 2nd Cliff to 1st Cliff that's just covered with icebergs and sand and boulders, so you can't drive through over to 1st Cliff where the Coast Guard station is.
I also spoke with Dan Malinowski, who owns the Villa Gardens restaurant in downtown Scituate. He was able to describe for us the damage along Scituate Harbor and the center of town.
Scituate Playhouse completely flooded out. Welch Company lumber completely lost, floating around all over the harbor. The Scituate Ceramic Shop underwater. Boats in the parking lot, 40-foot lobster boats, 50-foot gill net boats sitting in the parking lot, Coast Guard boats sitting behind a restaurant.
Obviously, millions and millions of dollars of damage in Scituate, and town officials and the townspeople are eagerly awaiting the help that the federal troops will be bringing along to that town shortly. The Red Cross Emergency Shelter is still operating at Scituate High School, but more and more people are now leaving the shelter and they're going to the homes of friends and relatives. By tonight, officials figure that only 50 or so will be at the Scituate Emergency Shelter. Many Scituate residents responded to an appeal to take in the evacuees if they had available space. And it's obvious that though Scituate is still reeling from the storm's impact, the people are fighting back with all they've got. Harry Savas, WBZ News.
Now it's mostly snow removal facing Revere officials. According to those I've talked to, most of those in serious trouble because of floodwaters have been removed from their waterfront homes. A short while ago, I spoke with Revere Mayor George Coletta.
Since the contingent of Army personnel came in from Fort Devens sometime around 2:30 this morning and went into active participation in and around 6:30 this morning, we've set up a dual-type strategy in terms of evacuation and snow fighting. We are still continuing our evacuation procedures, taking out people, rescuing people from their plight in the lowland areas of the community. And I suspect that starting out this morning, we probably still had in and around 300 to 400 to 500 more people to actually rescue and bring in. So we're continuing with that, and it seems like it's coming along quite well. The Army personnel are participating extremely in incredible fashion, so we're pleased that they are supporting us and helping us. We also had access to the MDC amphibious type vehicle this morning, so we were happy about that also, getting that back again in good working order.
The mayor says there are people, especially the elderly, who are unable to get food and those whose homes are getting cold. So the evacuation will, for the most part, shift from those who were in danger of losing their lives because of the extremely high tides to those who are snowbound. About 100 Army troops from Fort Devens are still here. They arrived early this morning. With them, they have ambulances, trucks, and some of the biggest snow removal equipment I've ever seen. A helicopter arrived a short time ago from Devens. Officials are flying over Revere to plot their attack against the snow. In addition, more troops and equipment are expected in a couple of hours from Fort Dix, New Jersey. They will give the Fort Devens men and local officials a break. Some of these people have been working non-stop since Monday afternoon. Meanwhile, a couple of thousand, maybe 3,000, will be spending the night once again at Revere High School. Don Batting, WBZ News in Revere.
Thank you, Don, and thank you, Harry, for concise reports. Meanwhile,
Police, we are going to go ahead and write the number up, or take the number, write the person up, and then we'll decide what's going to happen a little bit later. In a few days, we're getting together with the state police, and some action will be taken against them.
State?
Obviously, if they have a valid reason for being a medical emergency type thing, then we're letting them pass through. Number two, we have Route 128 shut off completely to traffic so as not to foul up the snow removal operation and the towing operation. And number three, basically what the officers are doing is they're either citing them or taking enough information to make out a criminal summons later on.
Snow removal efforts are being hampered by cars on the road, so get your cars off the road.
And with the removal of the cars, trucks, and buses that have been blocking Route 9 from Fayetteville all the way back to Westboro.
Right now, the crews are out there working very diligently, attempting to clean up the mess. They expect it to be cleaned up somewhat close to midnight tonight.
For emergency traffic that might want to use the area, I understand that Route 9 westbound is open for emergency travel only.
Yes, that is correct, for emergency travel only.
And how about eastbound? Is it still blocked off?
Yes, it is.
What's the story of the people of Data General, those 300 people who have been up there since Monday night?
People at Data General right now, all of our units, all available emergency units are out and attempting to transfer and transport people to their various surrounding towns and what have you. We have full efforts out on the road right now, and we're in the midst of transporting those people. So far, we're pretty well set on that situation.
Okay, are there any other situations in Southborough that are worth noting?
No, mostly everything is clearing out slowly but surely. The only thing is we still have a few people left at Bay School, a few people left at St. Mark's, and we're still working on Data General, but the situation should be resolved very shortly.
That's part of those 1,200 people that you rescued with snowmobiles and everything else from Route 9, which became a big parking lot Monday night in the blizzard with everybody stopped down there.
That's correct. We've had very cooperative efforts with all of our volunteers, emergency service units, snowmobilers, and surrounding town police officers.
Well, congratulations to you for doing a great job through the whole thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Auxiliary Police Sergeant Mickey Lanzer.
Continues to improve this morning, but there is still a way to go.
Pretty much squared away as far as the westbound lane, but the eastbound lane is still pulling cars. I think they got about between 25 and 50 cars still left in there. But still, Route 9 is closed to all, private or people out for riding around. It's just used for emergency vehicles right now.
Okay, so you expect today then it'll be cleared out?
Yes, I hope so. At least by tonight.
Southborough Police Officer Keller tells GTR News stranded trucks are also being removed, and those people stranded at Data General are slowly being brought home. Southborough Selectman Chairman Louis Bartolini tells GTR News success of Southborough's rescue efforts and storm cleanup in general cannot be attributed to any one group.
It was a combined effort of all the departments. I'm talking civil defense, highway, fire, all our volunteers, the headmasters of our private schools who set all these people up and made accommodations, fed them. They got blankets for them, and moving all the traffic and getting the people off.
And Natick Selectman Chairman Dan O'Leary says Natick Department of Public Works crews couldn't have done a better job.
Department, something hard to come by these days. Clear, storm-free weather should be with us right through the weekend. Days should be sunny with light winds, afternoon temperatures reaching about 28 to 32. Nights will be quite cold, with readings dropping below 10 in the suburbs and to 15 in the city. For HDH AccuWeather, this is meteorologist Elliot Abrams.
And the National Guard and MDC police, and they just called and they are not fooling. No longer are they going to stop the cars of the curious and just say, I'm sorry. They are going to have to get out. They will be ticketed, and they are trying for the toughest fines that they can get in those areas. This is an absolute emergency where the MDC, the National Guard, I think you heard the National Guard yesterday, yes, in the water trying to pull people out there. The curiosity factor is not going to help. Please stay off the roads today and don't drive.
Now, at the top of the hill in Southborough, it's the first of the lights after you get by the Tara, and from there, Route 9 is totally closed to all but emergency traffic all the way up to the Westboro line. They're still trying to haul cars out of there. We still have people stranded at Data General in Southborough. Also, the Route 128 is closed in most areas, but in Boston, Mayor White has gone crazy because they have such a situation in there. Boston is a mess normally on a normal workday week. When the storm hit January 20th, which was almost half as much snow as we got in this storm, Boston was like closed down. And this storm, Boston is out of business. And they've had power failures in there and all kinds of other things. They fear more deaths now in Boston and around as crews continue digging out abandoned cars and snowbound roads. 17 dead so far. But in Boston, they have roadblocks set up around the city to check for violators. They're not letting anybody in or out of the city of Boston except emergency essential services, and people caught can face fines of up to $500 in a year in jail. I guess they're ready in the newsroom. We'll get...
is still paralyzed. A lot of people were walking around the city streets yesterday, and unfortunately, many drivers were ignoring the state of emergency order and were driving around, making it tough for the snowplows to get through. Well, today, anybody driving around who's not supposed to will be dealt with harshly. Here's Officer Skip Holliday, the Boston Police Department.
As of 6 a.m. Thursday, February 9th, no motorists will be allowed to operate their vehicle in the city of Boston. This order will be strictly enforced with the exception of those citizens who must operate their vehicles for emergency reasons. The penalty for this infraction is a $500 fine or 1 year in jail.
So you heard him. They're not kidding. You will be arrested if you're illegally driving around the city. As for the current road conditions around Greater Boston, here's Mike Goldman of the MDC.
The road systems remain in poor condition in many spots. In certain areas, we've been able to open up emergency lane traffic. In other areas, we have not been able to get in at all. For example, the underpass near the Coke plant on Memorial Drive is filled with snow, and no machine in the world is going to get it cleared out, which hampers our efforts to clear up Memorial Drive. The key thing for people to remember who are at home is that the state of emergency continues to exist, that anybody who is on a roadway without permission will be turned back either by state or MDC or National Guard people, that although it may look in your specific area or your roadway that things are clear, things are in very bad shape, continue to be, will be throughout the day, and your best bet is to stay home, to enjoy your neighbors, to help out each other, and give us a chance to work on the roadways.
Crackdown on scofflaws, joyriders, begins in earnest today.
Chapter 33 of the
Let me see, Chapter 33, Section 13.5 in the Mass General Laws. I guess that's the chapter and section that comes under, and I know there's a year in jail, a $500 fine, that's what they're saying here now, and it's just common sense, right? I mean, they certainly can't lock everybody up, right? I think they're just advising people as a deterrent, and, the options are open to them to arrest people.
State Police Sergeant Walsh tells GTR News if the situation gets out of hand, they will begin imposing the heavy fines. Today is another bank holiday. Schools, banks, and businesses are closed. South Middlesex REACT spokesman Jay Appel says his group continues to work in conjunction with area disaster officials.
South Middlesex areas, we're looking for citizen band radio operators to utilize a monitoring efforts on emergency channel 9. They can call the following telephone number, 877-8295. Also elsewhere, we understand there is going to be a meeting of the commissioners on the Route 128 situation, and everybody who has a car on Route 128 is asked to call after 9 o'clock to 727-4800. That is 727-4800 after 9 o'clock. There will be a ruling on what they're going to do with the vehicles on 128. If your vehicle is there, you should understand that what they're doing currently is they're taking the cars off the ramps of 128, sending them into 128 itself, and they're alternating the cars from the north to the south and south to the north so they can do a slow but quick plow situation.
REACT CB is also looking for trucks with plows. The Southborough Route 9 situation continues to improve. At Southborough Police tell GTR News there's still a way to go.
Pretty much squared away as far as the westbound lane, but the eastbound lane is still pulling cars. I think they got about between 25 and 50 cars still left in there. But still, Route 9 is closed to all, private or people out for riding around. It's just used for emergency vehicles right now.
Okay, so you expect today then it'll be cleared out?
Yes, I hope so. At least by, tonight.
Southborough Police Officer Keller tells GTR News the stranded trucks are also being removed, and those people stranded at Data General are slowly being taken home. Southborough
Back from the road. Also, the roadways in some area that parallel the beach area completely gone, completely washed away. And up there by Hull, we have a similar situation. A lot of houses are demolished. Of course, some of these apparently are summer residences, and I assume a lot of the owners possibly listening now will probably try and get down here, and I'm sure there'll be lots of tears of anguish and cries of anguish when they see this mess they have facing them. The situation further up in the downtown area, talking about road conditions, from what I've seen so far, when and if they lift the van, the Mass Pike perhaps has the best roadway that I've seen around the Boston area. The Mystic Bridge, of course, being a private entity in itself, is a well cleared up section of road. And I was out there in 128 by Route 138. The cleanup operation there is progressing much slower than up at the other end by Great Plains Avenue. There's a quarter mile of cars have been removed from the snowbanks and placed on both sides of the road at that particular point. Further up by Route 1, they have plowed some of the road between the batch of cars that are stalled out. However, up there by Great Plains Avenue, they're working on it from both ends. They're working on it from a quarter mile standpoint down from Great Plains Avenue. They've cut a narrow area through the median strip, and they're placing cars on both sides of that roadway. In other words, they'll be crossing over to the southbound, or rather the northbound side from the southbound side, and placing cars on the right-hand side. And up there by Highland Avenue, they have huge Army wreckers working up at that end, and trucks towing the vehicles out of the way. So they are making better progress up at that end. Joe Green from the BZ Copter.
All right, Joe, very graphic report. Thank you. Again, you will not be allowed to retrieve a stranded car from 128, and there is no travel permitted on 128. It's about...
Vehicles are assembled periodically. Convoys have left the airport heading right for the stricken areas.
And an Army official tells HDH News that they're having a devil of a time clearing a Route 128 right now.
I guess probably the principal difficulty has been encountered there with the traffic tie-up on Route 128. It's been bumper-to-bumper traffic for about 4 or 5 miles. And this is 2-lane bumper-to-bumper, and it's all snowed in, so it takes a lengthy period of time for the bucket loaders to dig the snow away and the wreckers to come in and remove the vehicles one at a time.
That's Major Walter Birchfield, who came up from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The Army troops are out on 128, also in Revere and Hull and New Bedford. Hundreds of millions in damage been done in Scituate, Hull, and Revere. Hundreds of homes been destroyed or heavily damaged. Things reported to be going smoothly in shelters in Revere and Scituate this morning. They're getting food and other necessities. Other news in brief this morning, a 3-alarm fire heavily damaged a 3-decker Dorchester this morning. That was at Dorchester Ave and Greenwich Street. Nobody was seriously injured. Red Cross says it badly needs blood donors. The main Red Cross Center is open across from Fenway Park here in the city. Also, a bloodmobile been set up at Quincy House at Harvard University, also at Mount Auburn and Plimpton Streets. Talking about Harvard University, it is shut down for the first time in its 340-year history. State House, required to meet with the state constitution here in the Commonwealth, convened for exactly 1 minute Wednesday. Then it adjourned. 20 of the 240 House members, the legislators, managed to show up. And California is bracing for its 5th rainstorm in the past few weeks. Dry reservoirs and water rationing are a thing of the past out there on the West Coast as the northern part of the state contends with flood levels along its rivers, and they're getting ice in the south this morning. So the entire country is suffering through another severe winter, the winter of 1978. And do you realize it's only about half over? That's right. In sports, Celtics last night lost a game after winning 4 in a row. They lost to the Kansas City Kings by a score of 104-100. Bruins supposed to be in Detroit tonight. They're going to have troubles apparently getting the hockey players out of the Boston suburbs with this state of emergency remaining in effect. HDH News time is 5 after 9 o'clock.
Of Malden with the National Guard unit down there who have been doing the evacuation work, getting the people out of their flooded homes in the Beachmont section of Revere. Lieutenant John Erkler of Malden of the Massachusetts National Guard.
We're doing very well so far. We've completed almost all the extractions, and now we're just assisting with the emergency cases.
Do you have any more families down in the Beachmont area that the National Guard will have to go in and get out of their flooded homes today?
We have most of the families out. What we have are a few elderly people who really don't want to leave their homes, and we are working with the Revere police and trying to persuade them to come up here.
Now, what is the problem getting into those homes for the National Guard?
Severely high waters, and some of it is over the limits of our capabilities as far as the vehicles we originally came in here with. We do have 2 amphibious vehicles down in that area working, and now we have some heavy equipment down there that can get through the water.
Well, I know yesterday another lieutenant of the Guard reported to me that in the earlier operations, some of your men even jumped into the water up to their armpits to push boats loaded with people out of the flooded area. Is it that serious still?
Somewhat. We still have people jumping in the water. Where we don't have the amphibious vehicles close by, our people are just moving through the water to get primarily the children out.
Well, I guess you know that could be dangerous with the temperature of the water. Are you able to get your own people who have been subjected to those water conditions taken care of all right?
Yes, sir. As soon as those people enter the water, the first priority after getting any evacuees out is to get those people back here and into warm, dry clothes and have them inspected by the medical people.
Do you think that operation will be concluded today?
Hopefully. We're looking pretty good right now, and we don't have too many incoming calls, so we're kind of hoping that most of the evacuation will be completed sometime late this afternoon.
That was Lieutenant John Erkler.
Reassuring and threatening. Reassuring because there are recorded instances of nearly all the things that have happened here this winter. Threatening because they can happen again. Destruction of the shoreline by massive waves, blinding blizzards, fearsome winds, and the like were all observed and written about even in colonial times. When we see the spectacular pictures or hear the unfolding of human tragedy in the coverage of storms like this, one is left stunned, speechless. Those of us fortunate enough to have escaped the worst effects all realize that but for a few miles or minutes, we might have been in similar dire straits. And yet there's another side to this. In an age of cynicism and supposed lack of human values and compassion, the individual stories about saving lives, volunteering to help with no promise of pay, and just the spirit of companionship in the face of adversity are all things that are unmistakable. It's sad that it takes a calamity of this magnitude for these things that are good to come to the forefront, but we can feel some measure of pride that those qualities we talk about but don't always practice do in fact exist. These feelings and qualities may flee into the shadows once again as the snows melt and spring arrives, but this observer cannot help but be optimistic in the light of the thousands of good things people are doing for one another in the face of nature's onslaught. This is AccuWeather meteorologist Elliot Abrams.
But we have a very long way to go. Most of our secondary roads still are impassable. Many of our neighborhoods are impassable. I've talked with some mayors who tell me that in their communities it may take as much as a week or more to get back to anything reasonably near normal. So that the state of emergency will continue in effect through at least midnight on Friday with some significant changes. To begin with, in addition to the exemption that we granted last night to communities in western Massachusetts, all of Barnstable County will now be exempt from the state of emergency. Approximately 40 communities in central Massachusetts, including Worcester and Framingham, will be exempt. And any other community whose mayor or board of selectmen would like to be exempted from the state of emergency should get in touch with Bob Cunningham, our civil defense director, to discuss it with him. On the other hand, we cannot guarantee the lifting of such an exemption for obvious reasons, because in many cases we have communities which may believe internally that they are capable of functioning now at a reasonably close to normal level, but in fact they are in a region that is in serious trouble, and we simply cannot have people out in their cars and moving around and crossing community lines as inevitably they will. So that with the exception of those central Massachusetts communities, Barnstable County, and other communities which are exempted by specific order of the Civil Defense Director, the state of emergency will continue in effect. Now, supermarkets and drugstores will remain open, and they will be exempted from the blue laws on Sunday. So that supermarkets will be open on Sunday, people will be able to purchase food and supplies at them, and that will be the situation statewide. We would like to, and Secretary Barry has asked me to encourage our supermarket chains to see if they can't make deliveries to these supermarkets between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. That is between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. For obvious reasons, because then those deliveries can be made and they will not conflict with our snow removal efforts and the other things that are going on during the course of daylight hours.